All right. So the way this works is there's a bolt that threads into here and a bolt that threads into here. The bolts that thread into these two holes pass through two semicircular slots in the bracket so that when the bolts are loosened, the whole unit here can be turned from the horizontal position, which it's in right now, as an example, to fully vertical position, to convert it to a vertical sander. All right. So theoretically, you could just have an extra set of holes, take the bolts completely out, flip it up, and then do that. But the problem is with that is as soon as you take these bolts out, this is completely unsupported, and you get a big old mess on your hands. Take that from somebody who knows, because I was taking apart one of the other sanders and didn't realize you shouldn't take these bolts all the way out. So what I need to do is I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. So as I need to know a couple of things that I don't know right now. First thing I need to know is I need to know the diameter of the hole for this shaft to come through. Now, at a minimum, obviously it's got to be the OD of the shaft, but I'm pretty sure it's larger than that. We get a snap ring right here that's out of position. It used to ride here. It was out of position when I got this thing, which makes me think somebody was already taking this apart. So I don't know if they had planned on replacing this bearing, because that's what this snap ring does. It helps retain this bearing, or what was going on. So I know that the hole is going to be large enough to accommodate the bearing, the snap ring, and quite frankly, it may have even been a situation where they had envisioned that this could actually stay on the machine for the bearing change. I think this hole might have even been large enough to accommodate this bearing. And the evidence that supports that to me is there is a ghost outline of a circle right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's clear to me that there is a ghost outline of a circle right there. I don't know what this hole is for. Okay. Doesn't appear to serve any particular purpose at this time that I can see. So I'm going to ignore this hole. I think I'm going to go with this diameter right here that I could see the outline of for this inner hole. The difficulty with making this larger is at some point, if I make it too large, I'm going to start impinging in the amount of metal left behind to be on the other side of this slot that's going to go here. So the slot's going to be pretty narrow. That looks like about a 1/4 inch bolt. So, or 3/8, whatever. So the slot, if the edge of the slot was here, for instance, there's going to be metal from here to here. That should be plenty substantial. So I could probably even go a little bit larger with this hole. But since I don't need to, I guess I won't. So the other thing I need to know is I need to know the distance from the center line of this shaft to the center line of this bolt, the distance from the center line of this shaft to the center line of this bolt, which hopefully is the same, make my life a lot easier. Then I also need to know the end limit of my semicircular slot that I'm going to cut, because it needs to begin obviously at the position that this bolt is in right now, if this was in the horizontal position. All right. And then as this gets tilted up, this bolt is going to want to ride in that slot going up this way to a position 90 degrees from here, which will probably end up right around here. All right, so there should be a slot that's going to go like this, and then a slot here that begins here and kind of goes down. Let's see, 90 degrees from that would probably be right about here. All right, so let's sketch that out. So my drawings, well, let's just say a little crude, but here's the large hole that the bearing will be able to be viewed through and the shaft will come through. And then here's my existing bolt hole, one of the two of them, and this is my future slot that I plan to mill out, and this will be the end of the slot here. So this actually does exist right now, and this actually does exist right now. And then this is the other theoretical slot. Obviously this isn't the scale because this looks much longer than this one. Well, interestingly enough, I just eyeballed with the calipers the size of that hole I want to make in the middle, and I came up with looks like about 1.790, and that is almost what this currently is sized at right now. So I think that'll work out just fine. In fact, my temptation is to actually just use this dimension because it's so close, but I don't know whether or not this is concentric. In other words, because I had this held in the chuck, I don't know whether or not this diameter is turning concentric on the axis as well as this diameter. I mean, this diameter is, I know it is, because I just turned it. But now that I've taken it out of the chuck, I'm not sure if it is. I guess that's easy enough to check. So that's what I'll do. I'll just check it. Because if it is, I'll just leave this alone and I'll bore my hole in my plate for this size here, which will be large enough for clearance and also allow me to slide my plate right down over this to give me that, that mounting dead center that I want. And it goes without saying, obviously, I could do this without this. I could just have located, using an indicator in the quill of the mill, I could have located this hole directly underneath the mill, centered underneath the axis of the spindle on the mill, and then come along and put my plate on there and located, you know, move this around and caught that exactly right where it's supposed to be. I could have done that, and actually I still could do that. I could even go one further. I could put this in the lathe, making sure it's running true, and I could countersink a hole right there. Then I could put this in here, put this on the mill. This is all about making it easy for me to set the table up on the mill. So I just grabbed my Mighty Mag indicator base with this old Starrett indicator on it. I threw it in here. I've got it up against the side of the cylinder here, and if I rotate the cylinder around, I can see that it's actually, well, it's not a super tight fit in there, so actually I can rock this. So that's really not going to tell me much, is it? So I guess I'm not going to really know if that's perfectly concentric. You know, depending on what I was making, I might be not at all happy with this fit. But the reality is, because of the nature of the part that I'm making, I can get away with this kind of sloppiness. So what I did now is I snugged this piece up in the chuck with the piece the side that I already turned in the chuck jaws, and I put an indicator on here, and I ran it around, and it was out of whack, so I got it to where the low spot was. I tapped the back of the piece to bring it in about half the reading of error that I was seeing, the total run out that I was seeing. And now when I spin this around, this is within 2 or 3 thousandths, which is close enough for my work here. So now I can tighten this down. And what that tells me is that this is running concentric enough to the axis of the part, in addition to this. So I don't have to worry about turning this down again, which is great because I'm just holding on to what's in the chuck right now is only about 1 inch, and I can't turn right up to the edge there without the danger of hitting the jaws, so I'd have to bring this out further. Then I'm not really holding the part well. It would be completely unsupported on this end. So then by rights, I should probably bring over the live center drill it, yada, yada, yada. Don't really feel like doing that, so this is going to be good enough. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick facing operation on this side, and I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to countersink a hole here. And I'm going to countersink a hole so that I have something to drop my locating pin that I use in my quill on my mill to find this spot. It'll be self-explanatory when I do it later. My belt guard has come loose. That crack is the damn pulley. I also forgot to turn my tool post. This through experimentation in the past, I found that I can turn with this carbide cutter on here in this tool holder, provided that I change the angle of attack. There's not enough side relief here, so it starts to rub is what happens. So now that I got that straightened out, let me see if I can, I just went to tighten that darn shroud and the bolt pulled right out, so that wasn't a very good tapped hole that was on that thing. I tried to reuse one of the original holes that was on it, and apparently it's not going to work. Hopefully that cover will just stay put. Okay, so, and there is no nub there, which means I'm dead on with my height of this cutter. Okay, so unfortunately I have to go upstairs and start making supper. The missus has to work late tonight, so I said I'd start getting the chicken roasted. Alright, so this countersunk hole is just to help me locate the whole table assembly on the mill. Speeds things up for me. I'll be able to put this in a collet on the mill and bring this down, and once I'm able to get this to go right dead center into there, I know that my table's in close enough alignment for my purposes. There would be error with this method because of the fact that there's that little bit of play in there, but it's going to work for my purposes. So that's set. Now what I need to do is I need to make a hole in this plate, the diameter of this, so that A, the hole will be there for the shaft to come through, and that hole's going to have to be there anyways. B, that will allow me to slide this down over this piece, and of course I'll put some spacers in there so I don't damage the table, and then I'll be able to actually set up and start milling the slots. Alright, same process as before. I install this point, and then I just move my X and Y axis until when I look with a magnifier that I can see that the point is going right into my my little indentation there. Okay, now I'll pull this collet so I can center drill. I've locked my X and Y axis so that if I accidentally, the momentary lapse of reason, and grab one of the handles, I won't foul up my whole alignment.